Maybe I'll play the actual game. So far, how was the last day? Okay, I'll tell you. Now I can talk about what my job was. Because I don't work there anymore. And not because of, well, sort of because of confidentiality, but also because I just didn't want to before. I worked for a doctor's office that did sexual health and also did HRT. Part of the reason why I was so miserable is usually when I used to work in office, I got to see people, and I got to see hormone replacement therapy, so it was trans patients and things like that. When I used to work in the office before COVID happened, I got to see people that were transitioning, and it was like the happiest part of my life. I got to see people every however many months in their transitions, and it was like the highlight of my life, and it was great. And then COVID happened, and we went to online, and I didn't get to see my trans friends anymore, and so I was mega fucking depressed, and it's been like that since like March. So it was really, really tough on me, because that was like a way of me like having something for my identity of who I am and what I believe in, and then I just didn't have that anymore. But that was the one thing that I did for like 2 years before COVID started. So then when we went online, I was mostly doing regular doctor visits, lab work, and helping people with... I would love to talk more about boners, if we're being honest. So then I started doing only regular doctor visits, and I only got to do I'd help people with birth control. I helped people with doing blood work and things like that. Alex, don't listen! But I didn't get to do anything having to do with all of the trans people that I had like helped over time. And so I was really fucking depressed. And there was, the HRT was still going on, but I used to work as check-in and check-out at the doctor's office that I worked at. This is not what I want. It's Doom again. And then when I transitioned to online, I didn't get to do that anymore. And so I was like, I felt really lost and stuff. Because a big highlight of my life when I was still working full-time and working my fucking ass off was I would go to work and I would either see someone who was having their first ever visit to do hormones, someone that had been on hormones or was starting or was transitioning, or like people that had fully transitioned and were still going to do blood work and things like that. And one of my favorite things was a lot of blood work is done for HRT. You need to check your levels, you need to check your estrogen, your testosterone, all of those things. And so my favorite thing that I got to do was I didn't do any of the intake for people because I didn't know how to do all of that stuff, but I got to assist with the blood draws, and I was basically like the emotional support Boba. So my favorite thing was people would come in and they would need their blood work and they'd be nervous, they don't like needles, things like that. And I would be like, I'm there, I'm gonna hold your hand, I'm gonna talk to you, I'm gonna distract you, and we're gonna get through it. And so a lot of times people would come back and they would ask me to be there and things like that, and like all of that. And my mission was, I worked at the front desk, and people would come in super nervous for their first ever, like even just asking questions about HRT. And my personal mission was, this is scary. It's your first time coming here. And I'm gonna make sure that you get all the information that you need and that you're not scared and that you know that this is good and this is where you can go. And so that was like my thing. And I would cry so much all the time because there would be all kinds of different people. Exactly, Lorennial. The first day of the rest of their lives. And there were so many people that I saw from start, and I would see them every 3 to 6 months. And it was like, my favorite thing was when you're transitioning, you see yourself in the mirror every day, and you don't see the changes. But I saw people every 3 to 6 months, and I'd see voices changing. I'd see faces softening or
Shaundi, I swan to John.
Changing or things like that. I love you, Langs. I'd see these changes. It was like I got a snapshot of day one, the first time I ever see you. And some people would come in down the line and I would not even recognize them at all. And I would cry. I would cry because I was so happy and so proud and so happy for them. And so, like, the whole time that I was working at my job, that stuff was amazing. The days that were super stressful, super hard, it was worth it because I was doing that. But COVID happened and I didn't get to do that anymore. It was so fucking, like, it was amazing and so rewarding. I had people say, like, you know, that the help that we gave them was super important to them, of course. Like, helping through a lot of different things. And I had a lot of people that would ask for me to be there during their visits and things like that because, like, I really fucking cared a lot. And I was, like, one of the people for the whole office that was, like, I made check-in more trans-friendly because we have to ask, of course, legal names, legal sex on driver's license and things like that. So I made these papers that were laminated that would say, it would say pronouns, so it said she, her, he, him, they, them, or other. And it was like a piece of paper. And then I had another piece of paper that said MTF, FTM, or non-binary. And I had these two pieces of paper. And so that people didn't have to out themselves in the waiting room, I would put them on the counter and I'd say, can you just point to what's accurate for me? Or if not, you can just write it down. And that way, no one had to know anything. It was nobody else's business. I got to put what I needed to in the computer and there was just nothing. I never had to ask them, never had to, like, make them say anything that they didn't want to. So that was really important. And I did a lot because our company had, like, a few different doctors in it. And I just was the most annoying person of all, making sure that all of the stuff that had to do with HRT was the most important and forefront stuff. Annoying. And always crying to make sure everything was correct. Just always. And so, just amazing. It was, and so, I miss the in-office stuff a lot. What I miss was, when we went online, there was a couple of times where they needed me to just check someone in so I could do that, and it was someone I knew, and that was doing HRT, and I was so excited to see them. I miss all of them so much. And one of them was like, they're like, the things that you personally do have been so important to me. I was a patient at the doctor's office for something else, and I went like once a year, and so I would speak to the girls there, and they were super nice. And then I needed a job, and they were like, you can work here, and I didn't know that they did HRT. And once I learned that they did, I was like, oh, you fucked up, because now I'm gonna be so annoying, and that's gonna be the biggest the biggest thing that I'm gonna work for. So yeah, so I did that. But I missed seeing everybody in person, and it really started to like really wear on me. Because it was, I had like something that was so important to me, and that I made sure was like really well taken care of because I was annoying about it. I would always educate like everybody in my office, and I would ask people questions too, like, hey, I want to make healthcare better for people who are transitioning. What is the proper thing to say? Is the thing that I'm saying right? How can I change it? What during your experience was not good and what was good, so that we can work on that. Jem, I love you. I know, it's whack. So I made sure that and then other doctors' offices that we worked with.
It sounds like you've made a massive difference. Too many people's
lives.
lives,
Thank
I'm
you.
sure that will continue.
Thank you, Alex. It was very important to me, and once it wasn't something that I got to do anymore, I just felt really depressed. I had asked, because we worked with a bunch of other doctors' offices that were also providing the same thing. I asked that we get someone to especially represent the HRT sides of things, because I felt like there needed to be an across-the-board education of how to handle things correctly. And they were like, well, if that's ever in the budget, we would like you to do that. But I didn't feel fully comfortable with that, because I thought that should really go to someone who is trans or is more closely into that stuff, because it didn't feel right for that to be something that I was in the forefront in if I couldn't speak on experiences that I was not familiar with. So there was that. I agree, Lorenial. So yeah, so basically, then COVID happened. I didn't get to see all of my favorite people anymore, and I felt like I didn't really have a purpose. Will you still be able to check in with some of the people there? Is that unlikely? I can probably still volunteer. So I would like to do that, and I will probably still be very annoying. Make sure that everything is still being taken care of after I don't work there anymore. And I'm sure once I'm in, once they're back to being in office again, that all of my former patients are going to ask where I am as well. Ruby. I do my best, Ruby. I do my best. But one thing that I'm definitely going to do is, while being full-time, to work with Trans Lifeline some more and do some charity drives with them.
Shawnee,
Bob and
I
Mary.
swan to John.
Wow,
Spooky.
look at this full-time streamer. Very Bob Spog.
And, so I'd like to work with Trans Lifeline, and I did talk extensively to one of the people that is, forefront over there, and they were like, we would really love to do that. We have a lot of opportunities that you could be involved in too. So hopefully stuff like that. Hopefully something like that.